Very pleasant good afternoon and welcome to Apnu+Afc Live this afternoon. For the afternoon rush with yours truly, Randolph Critchlow. I want to thank those persons who are joining us internationally, in the region, and right here in Guyana, who've been a part of this process from day one. We want to thank you for continuing to support us, continuing to log in and get the information, the credible and valid information as we normally bring it to you. It has been 336 days since the regional and general elections of 2020, and the country still does not have credible results from those elections. Remember, the elections petition, they are in court. The Apnu+Afc, of course, plans to appeal the decision by the Chief Justice to not allow one of the petitions, the one that will reveal all of the evidence of fraud by the BNP government, to be put in front of the court. That appeal is expected to move forward pretty soon in the appeals court. So again, 336 days, and we still do not have credible results from the March 2nd regional and general elections. It has been 183 days since this fraudulent administration was installed, and we continue to keep their feet to the fire. We continue to bring you all of what is happening. We continue to be the opposition that the people want, be the opposition that will continue to hold this fraudulent administration accountable. Again, thank you. Remember, we are live on Facebook. We also live on YouTube. So if you want to view on that platform, check us out on YouTube. For those persons who are joining us on Facebook, we want to thank you. Continue to be a part of this. Today, we are going to be tracking a number of issues. I am sure that you remember last week, we were talking about the Ethnic Relations Commission and their bundling of the issue concerning Miss Cathy Hughes, Minister Hughes, when they came to public and said that they're investigating some claim. What was wrong with that is that you come to public and you spread this information as if Cathy Hughes would have said something inciting violence or something like that on the internet without doing your due diligence. Now, of course, the Ethnic Relations Commission has issued a full apology to Miss Cathy Hughes and has, of course, cleared her of any of those things she was accused of. Again, all it would have took on the part of the Ethnic Relations Commission, instead of coming out publicly and making a whole hoorah about this and making it seem as if Miss Hughes was guilty of something, was that privately they could have investigated this claim, investigated the claim privately, because I really don't understand, and this is where I have a problem with the operations of the Ethnic Relations Commission, and this is why many persons believe that it's a phenomenal waste of money, government taxpayers' money, a phenomenal waste of time, and it is actually helping to harbor more racial and ethnic division in this country. The simple and sensible thing would have been to privately investigate what was supposedly said by Miss Cathy Hughes. And then when you found out that it was not her who said it, and these comments could not be attributed to her, it was a fake profile on Facebook, you as the Ethnic Relations Commission should make a public statement telling persons to desist from making fraudulent and fake posts on Facebook that would incite racial tensions, and essentially say to the persons who are doing these things that, look, you are not operating in the best interest of what is best for the country, what's best for ethnic and racial cohesion. That is what a sensible Ethnic Relations Commission would have done. Quietly done their investigation and then come out on the side of ethnic relations and cooperation. Not to come out before you do an investigation. This is why so many persons around the country believe that the Ethnic Relations Commission, as it is comprised, as it is governed at the moment, as it is constituted at the moment, is a phenomenal waste of public servants' money. It's a phenomenal waste of government funds and a waste of time. So that's my take on that issue. Of course, you can read in your local newspapers that the Ethnic Relations Commission has cleared Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change Member of Parliament, Cathy Hughes, of allegations of racial incitement. Right? She was accused of making some racially charged statements on Facebook, which turned out to be false and not accredited to her. Right? There was a particular screenshot going around that somebody doctored, and this is why it was so unprofessional from the Ethnic Relations Commission to come out and say, okay, we're investigating this thing as if it was an actual thing. So again, we are calling on those persons who know, who are in power, who should be able to fix what is wrong. I am not even going to speak about Mr. Roshan Khan, who the commission knows, who the commission have received many, many complaints about his utterances on Facebook, his racially charged comments on Facebook, and he sits comfortably, taking home the government's money, sits comfortably on the board of the Ethnic Relations Commission, and has actively continued to spout racially charged comments, racially insensitive comments on Facebook. Mr. Roshan Khan. So the Ethnic Relations Commission has a lot of work to do. If it's going to clean up its name, if it's going to clean up its image, and if it wants to lecture to any Guyanese on any topic that it has to do with racial cohesion and social cohesion, first, the Ethnic Relations Commission could start by getting rid of Mr. Roshan Khan from their board. That would send a clear message that you are not tolerating persons who are making racially charged comments. You cannot have a big log in your eye in that of Roshan Khan on your board and be talking to persons about a little speck in their eyes. Come on, ERC. Get your act together. I would call to defund the ERC right now. That would be my thing. Defund the ERC. Because you're not making any sense. You're wasting Guyanese money. Defund the ERC. That would be my position. But we're not tracking that alone, as I will say no more on that for the rest of the day. But we are tracking a number of other issues. Of course, the PPP, they are trying to move a motion, of course, to move Mr. David Patterson from the Public Accounts Committee, head of the Public Accounts Committee, and that we'll discuss later in the day. Of course, we are also on our big issue, our big political issue of the day. We know that Venezuela, their continued aggression on the border, their continued buildup of troops, their continued detention and detainment of our fishing vessels and Guyanese who are actually detained right now in Venezuela. And we're going to discuss and we're going to unpack a lot of what has been done so far. We're going to unpack the president's statement, and we're going to have joining us Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Amanza Walton Desir, and of course, our resident political analyst, political thinker, Mr. Aubrey Norton, to unpack a number of those issues that has been happening. But before we jump to that, before we go to that, we have been tracking the happenings in a number of regions. We've been tracking the happenings at the RDC Region 4, Region 5, Region 2. Of course, we know that Region 8, the controversy still goes on because as of today, we still don't have the newly sworn in RDC for Region 8. Of course, the PPP are playing political games, hoping to take control of that RDC when they know they don't have the numbers. But over in the mining town, we will be joined right now by the regional chair for Region 10, Mr. Darren Adams, who will bring us some information as to what is happening. I know there are a number of developments in the mining town of Linden. We were joined by Her Worship the Mayor a few days ago. And of course, Mr. Adams would have been on the In the Ring show with my colleague Sher Duncan. Darren, good afternoon and welcome.
Randolph, happy to be here, man.
Yeah, man, same to you. It's been so long.
Yeah, definitely.
I know our viewers are following. They're tuned with the shows that we're having. There was a particular issue that you raised the other night as it relates to a particular board in Linden. You want to shed some light on that so our viewers are caught up?
Yeah. So just as to bring those who did not hear me last time I spoke. Now, there was a new board of guardian that was set up by the Minister of Social Services, Vidya Prasad, and I would have released a statement where I would have brought persons up to date, where I said the new board of guardian is the latest to ensure a lack of diversity in the PPPC's government's poor selection and racial agenda directed to the people of Guyana and particularly Region 10. Now, a community with a greater majority of Afro-Guyanese, and I'm referring here to Region 10, would have recently seen the appointment of an 8-member board of political loyalists to the People's Progressive Party who have an agenda, I'm advised, to remove many single parents who are currently on public assistance with no legitimate plan of transition for these persons. Now, the move is the latest in a series of that signals that non-diverse board, I believe, and management are unacceptable. And I am calling on the minister to recall that board and for her to have consultation with the leaders here in the region. I would have written the minister, and I told her that I would have wished to place on record my disappointment at the lack of interaction and on an issue such as this, which I am informed has not been the case over the years. Over the years, under the previous administration, we would have had a board that had a composition of persons who were from various groups, various backgrounds. You had Benita Primo, who represented the People's National Congress. You had Ms. Parkinson, who represented the People's Progressive Party, Stanley Collins, who represented the WPA. You had Coretta Braffett Walton, who is a member of the AFC, and you had other persons. It was a balanced board. And so what caught my attention is that all 8 members of this board that they would have set up are all they're all Indo-Guyanese. And so we note the lack of ethnic balance, one, in the composition of the board, which certainly does not reflect the makeup of this region. With this obvious lack of consultation, because we were not consulted, we're concerned that, one, there is some hidden political agenda on matters of welfare, gender issues, human rights, and social security with respect to the largest ethnic group of this region. Representation and assistance, which may be in the purview of this board to either recommend, endorse, or provide. Now, I have written to the minister. I have not yet received a response. I would have copied those letters to the Chamber of Commerce, to a number of other organizations, the Ethnic Relation Group, and we're hoping that this board can be quickly recalled and that consultation with the leaders in the region should be had before any board before they go forward with any board. We're genuinely concerned about the social and the economic well-being of our people, And this is something that we had to flag. It's unacceptable, and we ask all of the international community, the ABCE countries, to immediately support us in ensuring that this board is recalled.
Okay, okay. For those persons who, the layman watching, give us the correct name of the board and tell us exactly what the board does and what they're responsible for.
All right, so the board basically, if a single parent goes before this board, they're gonna present the case. Okay, you have 5 children, and you're asking for assistance, monthly assistance, financial assistance, until maybe you were able to get employment or whatever. So a lot of single parents will have to go before this panel, and
Okay.
we are concerned that they will not act fairly. They will not be. They will be partisan. In fact, we have gotten reports that some of these people, their character, when we did background checks on them, it doesn't appeal
Yeah.
to, no one should have even recommended some of them. I don't know how they got there. They've
So
been open.
what was the process of selection? Was there any consultation done? How was this board selected?
Well, I am not sure. All we saw is in the press that this board was set up. No one consulted with the office. We have councillors here. No one consulted with myself, with the office of the mayor. I'm sure nothing was done there. So we're in total, we're lost. All we saw, it was released to the press. And what we are concerned as is that we were tipped off that their plan is to shelve people off, to take them off of the program, and to just leave them hanging with no way to go. They're coming with this talk that they're going to set up programs to empower them and all of these things. But we know that's just cheap political talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Under the previous administration, we would have seen over 800 persons being added to the board. Linden has a high unemployment rate. Under this current administration, the numbers were just 250. So clearly, we know that there's an agenda to remove persons without any viable plan for them going forward, and that is what we're concerned about.
Okay. All right. So let me come back in quickly. I know we're talking about those single parents and those persons who may need some sort of social assistance. So this is the board that they'll have to go in front of. I too was shocked when I saw it. Let me say that. Given the ethnic makeup of Linden, and given the current situation, the current political situation at play, of course, our politics is very linked to ethnicity and race. I would think that the ministry would want a more representative body to deal with such social matters. So what is the next step, regional chair? How do we deal with this?
Well, we have made a representation. We have written, as I said, we've written the minister. We haven't received a response. Our plan is to bring this to the attention to the international community, let them know what is happening here in Region 10, that we're disappointed. The Chamber of Commerce, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, everybody seems suddenly to be silent. I don't know what happened to the folks that were once vocal, but everyone seems to be silent. And so all we're asking that when you're coming into this region, that you have consultation with the leaders, that you ensure that there is balance and fairness, so that we can all benefit. I was told on the very first day by Bishop Wane Jill that he wants to extend the hand of cooperation. Clearly, this is not happening. Clearly, there's a disregard. There is no, they just don't care.
Yeah. And did you managed to get a response from the subject minister, Ms. Vindhya Prasad?
There's been no response to it.
Wow. Wow.
No response.
This is interesting. This is really
Right.
interesting. And
So
I'm
we
happy
have
that
to, the people of Linden, we're going to call on them to be vigilant, to support us, because we're actually, when we sit as policymakers, we craft policies and programs that are in keeping with their best interests. And so we're going to continue to monitor this. And we'll continue to write the various organizations, and hopefully an entity or an organization such as the ERC will bring this to the front burner,
yeah.
as a front burner issue.
Well, you know how I feel about DRC in my introduction. I feel that they should be defunded. I think they're a waste of taxpayers'
Well,
money, and they, so I wouldn't be holding my breath and hoping that the ARC does anything, because
yeah,
I don't believe in they're currently constituted, that they
yeah,
have any sort of, first of all, any sort of moral standing, given that Roshan Khan is on the board, to be speaking
yeah,
about ethnic relations.
yeah.
But I do hope that this matter is heard and seen by every single Guyanese, as we continue to see the type of policies, the type of how the PPP, the modus operandi of the PPP. I couldn't imagine that you will go into a region, bypass the regional chair, the mayor, no consultation, select a board that is supposed to be helping or deciding who from Linda will receive assistance, given the population demographic, and you just choose the board of your people, as if you want the region and these people are representative of the region.
Yeah.
It is really sad. It's really sad. Mr. Adams, I do hope you continue to press on this issue and be right here. If any other development, you can come back and chat with us.
Well, before I go, I must raise two important issues, because I believe it concerns our people well-being. Now, under the previous administration and Minister Vala Lawrence, the dialysis center that was constructed here at Linden under the previous government has not yet been set up. Now, the one in Berbice, I believe, is up and running. But the one here in Linden has issues, apparently, that cannot be expeditiously resolved, which is of concern to us here in the region. Now, if you know anything, patients, dialysis is a procedure to remove the waste products and excess fluid from the blood. When the kidney stops working properly, it often involves diverting the blood to a machine to be cleaned. Now, we have a number of patients who are on dialysis here in the region. We're saying to the government, listen, if it is that you're concerned about the cost, whatever their people are currently paying in Georgetown right now, just set up the machine. They will continue to pay that fee, because it will the fees for traveling to Georgetown 3 times a week and buying meals. You know, when you come off of doing dialysis, you're hungry, you're tired. Set up the facility. Let us get it up and running. And then afterwards, we can negotiate and you can come in with your subsidies and those things. Now, I can't understand why is it. Now, I have consulted with the minister. He said that he will check on it because they're in contact with the organization, the 5Gs. But something to benefit the people, something as critical as accessing dialysis service. If your kidneys are not working properly, this is a process that will help you to stay alive. When your kidneys fail, dialysis keeps your body in balance. By, as I said earlier, removing waste, extra water from building up in your body. Why is it that the people of Region 10, the people of Linden, have to be waiting so long? All the machine and the room and everything is in place. All we need is a contract signed, or for this organization to come and begin. I have been getting calls with persons every day calling, asking me to intervene. And I can't see what could be causing the delay, whose desk it's on, that something as critical as this cannot be done. The next issue I want to speak to quickly is the the Sports Club ground. The facility, as you know, serves as a grand purpose in this community. And as representatives, we want to be able to cater to all families and all sports. Um, we are surprised that there was no consultation as it relates to works that are going to be done on the Mackenzie Sports Club ground. And the leaders, people are coming in. I believe, and I want to make this clear, that it is important to incorporate the leaders in our community to the details of any facility that is being constructed here in Region 10. Right? It's a community facility. It was given to the community. Yes, there's a committee in place, but out of respect, we believe if you're going to come and you're going to bring a consultant in, let us consult. Right? Who will own this facility after? How many funds are, who's going? There's so many questions. And so I don't know where this disrespect is coming from, but we are going to continue to make representation until all of these issues are addressed here in Region 10.
All right, we want to thank you for that. I know we heard about those development works, and I would have assumed that they're working in conjunction with the leadership in Linden, i.e., the chair and the mayor. I'm surprised that this is not so. Of course, this I'm surprised to hear that they're not doing it, but it should come as no surprise that this is the modus operandi of the PPP.
Now, it's Region 10 we're talking about, right? So,
yeah, and I know you guys will keep their feet to the fire as it relates to that.
Definitely, yeah.
Right. Again, we want to thank you, Regional Chair. Do continue to do the good work in Linden, and don't be a stranger to the show.
All right. Thank you, Randolph.
All right, thank you. Then we had a regional chair of region number 10, Darren Adams there, highlighting a number of issues, three in particular, one being that board that comes under the Ministry of Human Services now, social protection, that was constituted unbeknownst to the leadership in Linden and is constituted, of course, with a number of persons only representing one ethnic group, which is quite strange. And of course, he's talking there about dialysis center and works that are proposed for the Mackenzie Sports Club ground. And that seems to be happening unbeknownst to the persons in the region responsible for development in the region. This, of course, as I said just now, is no surprise. The PPP are known to operate in this manner. It is 5:32, and we are going to be switching courses now. We are going to be switching courses, and we're going to be talking about some political happenings around the country. We have standing by the leader of the AFC, Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan, who is on our show this afternoon, along with Ms. Amanza Walton Desir, both of whom are members of parliament. And I want to have their take this afternoon on the attempt by the PPP, of course, to move Mr. Patterson, an AFC member and a member of parliament to the APNU AFC, from his chairmanship of the PAC committee, the Public Accounts Committee. So I'm going to bring them in right now, and we're going to have a little chit chat on that. And then we are going to switch courses a little later down in the conversation to talk about Venezuela and what is happening there. Good afternoon, Mr. Ramjatan, Honorable Member of Parliament, and Ms. Walton Desir. Good afternoon to you guys. Right. I was saying to the audience just now that there was an attempt that we read about by the PPP, and I'm going to take the leader of the AFC first, by the PPP to remove Mr. Patterson from his position as chair of the Public Accounts Committee. What happened today?
Well, I understand they purportedly moved a motion of no confidence in the committee, Public Accounts Committee. And immediately I understand the David Patterson, chairman, duly constituted chairman, then recused himself from that item. I understand thereafter, nobody can take the chair because they did not want to. That is the other opposition members. And after that, there could have been no meeting because in the standing orders, I'm just cutting it short for the
Yeah.
audiences here.
Yeah.
Nobody from the opposition side wanted to take up the chairmanship. They wanted Mr. David Patterson there. And so the meeting could not have moved forward because of the lack of a chairman. And so the item, as Gail Teixeira and her team wanted, could not have moved or made any motion forward. And so they got stuck and stalemate at that position there. Of course, they want to give the impression that David is not a fit and proper person. But David has the confidence of the opposition members to be, first of all, a member in the PAC and also its chairman. And at this stage, at this juncture, we feel that they cannot in any way move any motion to get rid of the person who the AFC APNU coalition opposition wants to put there. That is the standing rule. That is a standing order that has that addressed properly. Now, even if you want to move certain persons from the position there or the chair, and you want to do so via a no confidence motion, there are certain rules that we have adopted and incorporated into our standing orders. One is that if you want to, one is that you adopt what the English legislature has as its rule. And the English legislature's publication is what is called Erskine May, the very big textbook on the rules and standing orders and the law of parliament. And that book has a certain very specific statement that you cannot move a chairperson of any standing committee unless you have the support of at least one member of the smaller party. And there are two parties that make up these the members in the parliament, in the committee here right now. I think 5 from the government side and 4 from the opposition side. And so that is what you have. There was nobody who voted for his removal or for the no confidence motion as proposed by a member of the government side. They do not want scrutiny here, Mr. Critchlow. They do not want scrutiny. And our best person that knows that public accounts more than most and knows the auditing system and the procurement processes and these things since a long time ago, since the establishment of the Alliance for Change, is Mr. David Patterson. And that is why we have every confidence in him doing a great job as the Public Accounts Committee's chairman. And I rather suspect that the PPP are not, very safe with him around. And that is why they want to throw him out. This nastiness about being charged and all of that, well, we know the charges have absolutely no merit. I am one of the lawyers in defending the charge against him and the Adams guy from the Demerara Harbor Bridge. And so they couldn't really bring that because Irfan Ali, who had about 16 charges against him, was the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee in a previous era, just a couple months ago. And so I don't understand what nonsense they're getting at. I think they want to halt the process of David Patterson's, especially David Patterson's and his team's scrutiny of the Auditor General's report and so on. And that is why they want to stalemate this process and not make any further meetings go ahead. That is, I think, is their underlying motive. I feel it is a dangerous development because Public Accounts Committee is one of the most important and significant of committees. It deals with matters of financial, fiscal. It deals with a whole host of other money matters and how it is being spent, and also how the scrutiny of it under the Auditor General is going on. And we have a lot of to scrutinize. And I rather suspect that this is the only motive to get out the best batsman that we have there from that
Yes.
pitch. Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Many persons are commenting on how frivolous this attempt is, given we know that Mr. Ali was chair of this same committee when he was facing fraud charges, and like you said, there seems to be an attempt to stall up any sort of scrutiny of the records of what has happened and what is to come. What is the next move? Because as somebody, as a layman looking in, we know that the motion didn't really go anywhere because nobody took up the chairmanship. What happens next?
Well, what happens next is that the meeting ought to have then been called up back by Mr. David Patterson. That is how my reading of it is, if it was not aborted, and so that they will meet again on the next occasion. I rather suspect the speaker and the clerk will help to give some guidance as to how we move forward. But that guidance is only recommendatory. One is not bound by it. One is bound, however, by the standing orders, and that as interpreted by the members therein. And our standing orders are very clear, as I just indicated. If there is a silence on our standing orders as to how to move forward, you go to the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom would have had some experience in all of these things. And as I said, this is where you must get your guidance then from the law of Parliament of the United Kingdom. And as I said just now, we do have our Sky Maze, and it was clearly set out that when you want to have a no confidence of a certain standing order, any committee's chairperson, you have to have some members, or at least one member from the opposition who's voting against him. And that is in keeping with the principle that government cannot, in this Public Accounts Committee, this very special committee, cannot be held to sway the discussion in that committee. That is why the chairmanship is given as a matter of law and convention for centuries to an opposition member. The opposition will have a more eagle's eyes against the governing party. And that convention has been there for a long time, as we say, time immemorial. And it has been solidly held on to by all the Commonwealth parliaments and committees within the parliaments of the various Commonwealth territories. So it is very, and by the way, there has not been anything like this happening before, where you seek to throw out the valid chairman, the legitimate chairman. There is nothing disqualifying him from being a parliamentarian. But now you want to throw him out of a committee, giving the impression as if he's disqualified from chairing those proceedings, and especially in the context of him being our best batsman, as I said.
Yeah. If I can bring in Ms. Amanza Watson Desir here, Member of Parliament. Amanza, many persons would have commented on the PPP's use of the House's time and business in the House to deal with these frivolous matters when they are not even willing to accommodate a debate on the Henry Boyce murder. We know that one presentation that people remember, which was your presentation in Parliament, where you spoke very pervertedly about the fact that we need to solve these murders and we need to get it right. Your thoughts on these developments in Parliament before we get to the Venezuela issue.
Thanks, Randy, for having me. Good afternoon to you and to your listening audience and viewing audience. Look, my thoughts on this are not a matter of secret. I think what you're seeing here is the PPP demonstrating that they are unable. I don't think it's a matter of being willing now. I think it's a matter of they are unable to take any action that will foster national unity or national reconciliation. There was a time that I thought that they may have been willing to, but now I have to question whether they even have that intent, whether they have the capacity to reach across the island, engage in meaningful and transformative discourse. You see um, a lot of cheap tricks, etc. in the National Assembly. The Speaker has undoubtedly showed that he is not going to be fair and unbiased in his rulings. I mean, to not even accommodate a debate that could result in the National Assembly offering condolences to the to the to the Henry families and Harish Singh's families. It's crazy. And so I think what you're seeing is just classic PPP. I think they are just demonstrating to Guyanese that they're not fit to lead a united and a democratic Guyana. So those are my initial reactions uh, to the issues.
Yeah. All right. And like I'm coming back.
Mm.
Yes, thank you. And I take it, that as someone who is fairly new to Parliament, I mean, I'm looking on from the outside, and I would have expected uh, that the PPP, after again, wanting to demonstrate to the Guyanese people that, what, we are here to do this thing right this time. We are going to be doing it the right way. And it has been nothing of the sort. It has been the same old political games. And I mean, as a young person, I'm quite disappointed at the turn of events. And when you see these things, when you see the parents of the murdered boys outside of the parliament, almost to tears, you wonder, what are we doing? What are we doing as Guyanese? What are we doing as the person who's supposed to be making a difference? It's quite sad.
Let's be very clear about something, Randy. It's the PPP has always been about enriching a certain circle of persons, and that modus operandi has not changed. They do it by preying on the fear of their supporters that if you are to support this other party, which is ethnically different from you, um, certain consequences will naturally occur. And so they've never been about the Guyanese people. They are simply about enriching a few of their cronies and colleagues. And there is no even trickle down to their own supporters. But
Yeah.
again, like I said, they've mastered the art of playing the race card when it is convenient. And so we have the unfortunate situation in which we find ourselves. I think, I think a number of the people who supported, including countries who would have supported the PPP's stealing of the last elections, etc., are now beginning to find themselves in doubt as to whether they did the right thing, because you see they have come with a very rabid um, approach. And so we have to acknowledge it for what it is, and we have to call the spade a spade.
Okay. And we're going to be calling a spade every single day. We're keeping their feet to the fire. Let us turn our attentions now, Ms. Walton Desir, as the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. operation. And we're going to bring back in Mr. Cameron Ramjatan here. We see what is happening with Venezuela. We see the ratcheting up, so to speak. We see the detention of Guyanese fishing vessel and Guyanese who are now detained in Venezuela. If I can get Mr. Ramjatan first, don't leave Miss Walton because we need your comments. Mr. Ramjatan, what should be Guyana's position at this point in time? We know we heard the statements from both the minister and the president. What should be Guyana's position at this point in time, given Venezuela's reluctance to deal with the court and wanting to negotiate, so to speak?
Well, Randolph, I must say that we have to keep the diplomatic front very much the foremost and the front burner at this point in time. And that every action of the Venezuelans in violation of the laws and international laws and our marine boundaries must be immediately be dealt with notes of protest and also condemnation by the government of Ghana. It is very important and significant that that happens forthwith upon the violation. Of course, diplomacy is something that is very much where skills are necessary, and it will depend on the style of leadership. There are leaders and there are leaders, just like there are lawyers and there are lawyers. And you could have a style of leadership here that might be rather benign and not the aggressiveness that we would like to see, and so on. But that does not in any way mean that we should not condemn and do the notes of protest and call in the Venezuelan ambassador in Guyana and tell him that this is all wrong, and also in a very aggressive way try to communicate to the other diplomats in the diplomatic corps, America especially, United Kingdom, Moscow, Russia, the Chinese, and so on, to ensure that your side is clearly in the know as to what is happening, the names of the fishermen, their families that are affected, and so on. And not only that kind of diplomatic corps, but the multilateral organizations, OAS and the various other organizations that matter very much regionally, CARICOM too, and internationally. And I, feel that that is what has to be done. And it should not in any way be a hesitation or a recalcitrance or an unwillingness to state your mind as to how you feel about the Venezuelan violation. Because when the law is broken, the lawbreaker must certainly be condemned. I noticed that the president indicated that he would like to talk at bilaterals with Venezuela. I don't know if that is indeed a very smart move at this stage, but that of course depends on the style. Irfan Ali, if he has a style, probably that is it. Talk cordially with them. I don't know if that is going to ensure that our sovereignty, our territorial integrity will be protected. So it is important that those be my opening remarks. Otherwise, you can have a humiliation by the Venezuelans through a variety of tactics, like they have done previously in Ankoko. They have done, I understand, by sending soldiers across the Whitewater and some of the communities there, and then taking away the boats and also detaining our citizens who are fishing in maritime waters that are exclusively Guyana's. And of course, we know Perdana, MV Perdana, they had taken it and so on. These are things that we just have to denounce. And because, of course, we are not with the capacities militarily to mount any operations or anything of that sort. So we just have to get our friends with us. And one of the important friends that we would have to bank on here, I am certain, would be the United States of America. And I am glad that they made this statement that they did recently via the Secretary of State and, of course, other persons who have indicated their support for Guyana and also the support for the rule of law via the ICJ.
Um, um, MP Walton Desir, I know you visited the minister, you paid a visit to the minister recently. In your opinion, how much of this is just a strongman beating his chest and pulling at the patriotic heartstrings of Venezuela to drum up support?
Well, look, let me say first off, I cannot be as gracious as Kemraj is being in this regard as it relates to how the government is handling this issue. I think they are, I think we can agree on a few things. One, we do not have the military strength to the military might to engage in any kind of military action with Venezuela, and that the diplomatic channels are appropriate. I am very slow to say that this is the case of a strong man beating his chest. I think we are in a different time, and we have to appreciate that the world over is in a different space. And so, some of the predictability that you would have had in times gone by, you cannot have that anymore. You've seen that. You've never in a million years would anybody envision that people would storm the capital, but it was stormed. And so I do not have the confidence of certainty as to what the Venezuelans will do. Listen, the other thing is that I was listening to the press briefing on Saturday, and I want to make a very important note that there were a number, if not the majority of the members of parliament for the opposition, they were in attendance virtually to that press conference. And the government seemed to be at pains to not point out um, our attendance and our involvement. So I wanted to call them out on that because I think you cannot be speaking out of one side of your mouth about a bipartisan approach. And in the face of international and regional media, you cannot acknowledge that you have an opposition who is present and is at the table listening, etc., because it is a matter of national importance. The second thing is that I think that a question that was asked was very instructive as to um, how this government lacks foresight. You have a Secretary of State that is about to presumably demit office with an elections coming so close. One journalist asked, "Do you think that it was his visit that could have been the catalyst for this level of aggression that we're seeing?" And the fact that the foreign minister seemed to just brush that aside and say, "Oh, it was a continuation of our bilateral arrangements," is really indicative of how short-sighted the government is. It is unusual, if not inappropriate, that a Secretary of State would be visiting and entering into arrangements and agreements so close to an election. Now, the government ought reasonably to have known that this could lead to some amount of agitation. The fact is that they were so triumphalism was a bit more important to them than long-term strategy and planning. And so I do believe that Pompeo's visit has helped to agitate the situation. And I'm willing to say that. And the fact that the government could not foresee it, like I've said before, really does indicate how short-sighted and how probably inept they are at dealing with foreign relations. The fact that Guyana has really benefited from this non-interventionist stance since our independence is being jeopardized. Is being jeopardized because the PPP is bent on on prostituting Guyana for their own personal gain. The hierarchy of the PPP. And so we have to be able to see these things for what they are. We have to be able to call it for what it is. So I can't be as gracious as Cambridge has been, but I think that they have they're making serious missteps, particularly in their attitude towards the opposition. When it is convenient, they talk about national unity. When it suits them to paint the narrative of an unsupportive, uncooperative, uh, um, opposition to the regional media, they take that opportunity, and so they will be wearing the balance and found wanting.
And if I may say, if of course you look around the world, they would have known that the outgoing administration was on this move to do a lot in all these different regions before Biden came in. Mr. Ramsey, do you share the same sentiments that there needs to be a little more cooperation, a little more needs to be done on the PP side if they're going to battle or wage this diplomatic battle better? More they need to reach more in terms of including the opposition.
Look, they cannot move forward with any sense of certainty and strength if they don't have the opposition on their side. We have issued a statement, I think, about a coalition opposition statement, which says that we must be united in Guyana before we can confront as best as possible this aggression against us. And if the PPP is going to do like you started your program this afternoon, knowing the tribalism that we sometimes have here in Guyana, excluding people from certain committees, humiliating that group, the sectarianism it has brought in the economic policies, what I have called the ethnicization politics and the ethnicization orientation to programs and policies. We're not going to be anywhere in a position to even unitedly confront at the diplomatic level this problem. So there is need for cohesion. There is need for, if it is one area and sphere of activity where I see that the president ought to ensure that there is unity, and it is this one. So if they're going to go about trying that they're going to do it by themselves and cuss us down and have no confidence in our public accounts chairman, have no confidence in black people being in that committee, what do you call it, the poor law committee or something like that, in Linden, you're not doing the right things. And especially when your army is largely made up of black people, and if we have to confront this thing, if you have to start preparation of Guyanese people to go to battle, where are you going to get them from? What, the East Indians going to run away and go to Suriname? They never wanted to join disciplined forces and all of that. So you're going to have what? So that is one of the important aspects of this matter. If you want to go, and even if you have to now confine your soldiers or soldiering along our territorial borders, what are you going to have there? You want to have as much as possible a people who constitute the entirety of Guyana. Just like how they do it now and again, ask the question, because this is an important development. If we now have to go and, let's say, to the other extreme, conscript Guyanese into, forming a defense mode of operation and all of that, apart from the diplomacy, you would want Guyanese of all shapes, sizes, and colors to be there for you. You're not going to just want one side wanting to go to the battlefront. That is crazy. But that is what this PPP will do. Foreign affairs, diplomacy, and these matters are not a great forte of the PPP government from long, long years. They don't understand that. And they don't understand the nuances at home here, how they have to behave. They are very hardwired towards creating the non-cohesion, non-cohesiveness, the disunity at home. Well, that could be taken advantage of by the Venezuelans. And so one is hoping that people like our former Minister of Finance, um, he will help them there. He's now an advisor there, Carl Greenwich.
Yes.
That's an important player. He understands, right? Yeah, Honorable Member Carl Greenwich, and so that he could give them some insights as to look, this thing requires unity across the board, you know, and we will need unity at home here. You just don't go around the place giving the impression as if the opposition does not matter and the opposition. And you know, elections time, they discussed the GDF telling them that all Ali voted for the PNC, all Ali voted for the coalition. But they go on them go fight war they know. And I hope their East Indian veteran will go and fight the war for them there. They don't go. You better believe, because I have begged some of them to even join the police force. They don't want to. They tell me go straight. Me go want me $3,000 for kick party a road top rather than go and join the police force or join the GDF. They don't want to. So we have to understand all of these, because these things are what can break up our fabric here to make the entry into the country you know, easier pass for the Venezuelans, notwithstanding the fact that they will breach all the international laws and no matter what. And that is why also, you know, I come back to this point, and when we sign that Exxon deal, it is important that the politics of it is understood. We got some newspaper owners and so on can't understand that thing, you know, like the cultural news people and so on. They never could understand that. But there was a value to that thing called the ExxonMobil deal, which entitles us to at least know for sure that we have a friend that has investments of a major type here in Guyana. That same Exxon company, biggest oil company in the world, was nationalized by the Maduro and Chavez government, I think, in Venezuela. So in diplomacy, in politics at an international level, you got to know what you're doing so that you strengthen your diplomatic foundations, your friendly foundations, so that no big country will use might as against right. At least we will have friends and people there who are going to deal with these things. And that is why a lot of them just don't understand this, and they're creating, apart from the governing party, some of their cohorts are creating all of this mannishness, you know. I don't know how better to put it. I feel, however, that the present president must understand the nuances of getting a united Guyana behind him when talking on the issue, rather than a divided Guyana.
Definitely, and I think those are the same sentiments Amanza's echoing. Amanza, your mic is off.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with Kamraj. You know, Kamraj has a very blunt way of putting it, but everything that he has stated is factual.
Before you continue, I'm going to let you finish the show with our segment called One More Thing. So I'll give you the chance to add one more thing before we go.
Yes, and one more thing. Yes. The one more thing I'd like to add is the point that Kamraj made, to see Venezuela equipping their ordinary citizens with certain skills, because they were of the view that every citizen ought to be a soldier. But in our thinking some years ago, the People's Militia, etc., was to Burnhamite an idea. And now we are beginning to see the wisdom of having citizens trained in a particular manner, because that is what Venezuela is doing. Each rank and file citizen is exposed to a degree of training that they can defend themselves. Venezuelans are coming over at Whitewater and disrespecting our people left, right, and center. And so you got to be careful that we do not throw the baby with the bathwater, because these are the times that it comes back to haunt us. The president must know that you have to have real unity. putting a couple of artists together to sing a song about one Guyana and slapping a couple of photographs with people saying not a blade of grass is not real unity. We have to deal with the issue of race. We have to gut it wide open before we can truly achieve unity, a truest sense of the word here in Guyana. Until then, the president is burying his head in the sand, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and if I have to close also on this one thing more, I
One
want to tell
more
you
thing.
that is exactly what Venezuela is doing. Do you know that although the Guaido opposition detest what is happening by Maduro and his cohorts over there in Venezuela, on this Guyana issue, they are united,
They are.
very much united, although they are very wrong about the law in relation to this matter. Guaido, which constitutes a big proportion of the population supporter base, and the Maduro people are all at one. They're united. And even if there is going to be a change in government there, the Guaido government or the new government led by the opposition there will still want this territory that they regarded as Bolivarian. It is not. So unity is what will spark the best method moving forward. And one is hoping that the government of the day understand that one thing more.
Yes. Now that we had two more things, we want to thank both leader of the opposition, leader of the Alliance of Change, Mr. Kemra Dranjatan, member of parliament, of course, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Manzo Walton Desir, for joining. And really insightful conversation today. We hope that we continue to keep our eyes on this issue and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having us, Randy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Want to thank those guests who are coming through and sharing. We are going to have political thinker and executive member of the People's National Congress Reform, Mr. Aubrey Norton, on another show, and he will be sharing his thoughts on the Venezuela-Guyana border controversy. Of course, we, as Ms. Walton Desir said, we have to have true unity to be able to confront this issue properly. We have gone past program time this afternoon, but we were having such an insightful conversation with those two brilliant minds. We didn't mind hearing from them a little more. So we want to thank you for keeping with us this afternoon, staying with us, being part of this conversation, being part of bringing you the credible and valid information here at Apnu+Afc Afternoon Rush, which yours truly, Randolph Critchlow. Remember, I always say to you, remember, let us continue to work for national development. And before we go, we want just a little note. Pretty soon, we are going to be launching our merchandise store, so you can get the Afternoon Rush merchandise. Of course, Chris is on in the middays, and he with his lunch break merchandise, and of course, Sherrod is in the evening, within the ring, and he also has merchandise. So we'll have a merchandise store. We'll put the link in the description. If you're on YouTube or if you're on Facebook right here, we'll be having the link to that merchandise store, so you can pick up and support the show, support bringing you the credible and valid information. So when that is launched, you'll know. So just letting you know what is to come. My name is Randolph Critchlow, and as I always say, remember, let's continue to work for national development. Do enjoy the rest of the evening.